Sign the form on lines 3, 5, 18, and 23. This last statement is finalizing the agreement that in return for a month of service and scientific testing for the Foundation, you will be released from your death row sentencing. Remember that the work you're doing here will benefit the world. The dry, bored-looking, yet somehow familiar legal assistant stated as he droned off a piece of paper. And as long as I do this month of, science testing for humanity, I go free? No questions asked? So long as you do not disclose any information gained while testing, you are free to return to your pre-incarceration life without any penalties. You will not be reimbursed for this period of time spent in incarceration or testing. He tapped his pen somewhat impatiently. Well, anything's better than this, right? I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. On impulse, I grabbed the man's hand and shook it vigorously. His eyes widened in surprise, as if he really noticed me for the first time. As he met my eyes, he suddenly glanced away quickly, as if he saw something in my eyes. No problem, sir. I hope that this is a mutually profitable relationship, he replied, as if distracted. He looked away with a disgusted look on his face. As the guards began to lead me out of the room, I began to think quietly to myself. A month wasn't too long. I could do that. I'd be able to see my family soon, right? I opened the door, got in, and walked on the path. Got it? The researcher impatiently tapped his pen. And you're saying that's the key changes what's behind the door? Yes, just walk down the path and you'll be fine. Getting quickly though, we've never tested this before with multiple people. I looked at Ramirez. He shrugged at me as the guards guided us to the door leading to the decontamination chamber. Tyler was handed the key. He inserted it into the door, somewhat hesitantly. He turned the key and opened the door. What greeted us was not the sterile walls and equipment of the decontamination chamber, but a misty forest scene. We all recoiled back in shock. Jesus, it actually worked. What the hell is this? I stared in shock. It actually worked. Is this magic or something? A voice over the PA system came on.
D-class personnel, please enter the forest.
We grabbed each other's hands as instructed and quickly filed into the door. It slammed shut behind us as soon as Ramirez, bringing up the rear, made it through. We turned on our flashlights and started to walk down the path. What the hell is this place? This is creepy as fuck, man. I don't know, man. Let's get through this place. Sooner the 30 days are up, the better, as far as I'm concerned. As we walked through the forest, a voice came crackling over the radio clipped to Vanky's belt.
D-class personnel, do you report any changes in health or mood?
No, Doc. Feeling pretty good.
Good. Please proceed as planned.
The eerie mist seemed to encroach us as we followed the path through the forest. The dark night sky stretched on, engulfing us in its mysterious, foreboding embrace. I do not like the feeling of this place. Where are we even? I shivered, glancing around. Doesn't look like any place I've heard of. I'm more concerned with how we got here. Suddenly, I thought I heard something in the forest. Did you guys hear that? Ramirez froze. Yeah, sounded like some animal. We all paused. I swung my flashlight through the woods. It yielded nothing but the tangled expanse of trees and undergrowth. You're hearing things. Easy to get paranoid in here, I guess. I could have sworn that I heard something. We continued along the path, and I remained on the alert. Then I heard this sound again. There it is again! It sounded closer this time, I swear. I'm hearing it too, guys. I'm freaking out a little. Ramirez gulped. Are you sure you heard something? Suddenly, we heard an earth-shattering roar. Something barreled out of the woods towards us. What the fuck is that? Ramirez screamed. We ignored him as we broke into a dead sprint. We sprinted through the woods as fast as we could, ignoring the other sounds and roars that came from the forest. As we kept running, the thing kept roaring and chasing after us. Suddenly, a break through the mist revealed the door identical to the one that we came through. That's the door! Hurry up, Ramirez! Ramirez screamed as he tripped and fell to the ground. I paused for a moment, but Vanky grabbed my arm. Too late, man. We got to go! But Ramirez... Too late, man! Help! Jesus fucking Christ, help me! I think my ankle's twisted. Oh god, oh god, oh god! Ramirez sobbed as he tried to crawl closer towards us. Tyler jammed the key in the door, tears streaming down his face. He threw it open, revealing the decontamination chamber. Oh fuck! It's getting closer! Help! Help me, guys! I don't want to die! Ramirez screamed at us, his voice breaking as he sobbed helplessly. Vanky violently pushed me in through the door as the three of us made it through. As he slammed it shut, I heard a new scream from Ramirez. The last look that I saw of him was his outstretched hand, reaching towards us. The guards took us back to our cell. We trudged along silently. They pushed us into our cell and slammed the door shut. Tyler climbed up into his bed and faced the wall. Vanky stood up, facing the wall. I was stretched on my bed. The bunk above me was conspicuously empty. Vanky suddenly kicked the wall.
What the fuck was that? I don't know, man. I don't know. I've been through some rough shit before, but nothing like this. What the fuck have we gotten ourselves into?
Vanky sighed as he sat down, putting his head in his hands. I spoke up. You know, we signed those forms. They have to let us go. It's all been recorded. They can't go back on their word now. It's only a month. I offered, somewhat hopefully. The glares from Tyler and Vanky were all I needed to see to gauge what they thought of that. But it was recorded. They had to let us go. Right? As the guards opened the doors and chambers leading to the testing chamber, we stood around in our bulky heat-resistant suits. They were tough to move in, and that was compounded by the huge blast shields and fire extinguishers that we were also forced to carry. Tyler carried a large container of gasoline on his back. Vanky and I flanked him.
Remember, go in, drop the fuel, and get out. Stay too long and we cannot guarantee your safety. Since when have you bastards ever guaranteed our safety?
The guard narrowed his eyes at us, but said nothing. Finally, a green light flickered on above us, and the guard slammed the button.
Go, go, go!
We began to jog through the last chamber. Vanky and I brought up the front as Tyler jogged closely behind. The bulky suits were hard to run in, and I almost tripped a few times. It became unbearably hot as we suddenly found ourselves in a small, humid room. In an offset alcove, a flame seemed to flicker at our appearance. Quickly, we stopped and faced the flame. Tyler quickly took up the container of gasoline on his back and placed it on the ground. Seeing the pack, the flame flickered again and began to race towards it.
Let's get out of here!
We suddenly turned around. I nodded and we began to run out. However, as we turned to run, we heard a yelp behind us. Turning around, I saw Tyler trip and fall to the ground, tripping on the bulky suit. At the same time, the flame reached the gasoline container and suddenly exploded into a much larger form. It seemed to pounce on Tyler with glee. Tyler screamed. The suit began to melt as the flame hungrily attacked it. The overhead sprinklers exploded into action, drenching the flame with water as we were suddenly jolted by the abrupt change. We unleashed the fire extinguishers on the flame, which hissed and crackled as it was driven back to its alcove. We grabbed Tyler and dragged him out of the chamber. As we made our way out, I heard Tyler moan. Glancing down, I almost puked. The entire lower half of his suit was a melted slag-like mess. Tyler kept moaning, and it sounded like he was crying too. Vanky glanced down and winced, his face turning white.
Hold on, Tyler. Just hold on. We'll get you to a doctor. Just hold on, buddy.
He only moaned louder in response.
Guys, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel much, guys. Why does it hurt?
It's okay. You're gonna be alright. Just
hold on, okay? I don't want the hurt anymore.
Finally, we cleared the last containment chamber and dragged what was left of Tyler through the door. A team of doctors swarmed us as we passed through. Vanky and I tried to ease Tyler out of the suit, but he kept screaming whenever he tried to pull him out. The slag of the suit had melted to portions of his body, and we couldn't get him out easily. The guards grabbed us before we could keep helping and forced us to take off the heat-resistant suits, before they yanked us back to our cells without a word. As we were forced back to our cell, we heard screams coming from the nearby medical wing.
It sounded like Tyler.
I went back to my chamber with Vanky. He walked over to our toilet, fell to his knees, and vomited. Later, a notice came to us telling us that Tyler had been terminated to put him out of his pain. Only 20 more days. They had to let us go. Right?
You will enter the room and open the door on the western wall. You will see two other personnel who are identical to the two of you. Until one entire set of personnel has been terminated, the door will not open. Use whatever means necessary to terminate the other set of personnel. Got it? Good.
The door was swung open and Vanky and I were roughly shoved in. I glanced around the room, looking for anything that could be used as a weapon. I spied a bottle of beer in the fridge. Grabbing it by the neck, I smashed the end. An impromptu knife was better than nothing. Vanky picked up another bottle as well. We stood in front of the marked door on the western wall. I glanced at Vanky, who looked back at me.
When we open the door, roll up both of your sleeves so we know who's who. Otherwise, we could kill each other by accident.
I nodded at him. For another moment, we simply stared at the foreboding door.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this. He threw open the door. While doing so, we both rolled up our sleeves quickly. Looking across the gap at us were two identical copies of us, also holding smashed bottles. They had kept their sleeves long. For a surreal moment, both sets of us simply stared at each other in pure shock. Then, Vanky broke the silence by screaming and lunging at his twin. I snapped out of the momentary pause and dodged to the side as my twin came at me with a jab. I slashed at him with my bottle, but he ducked underneath it. Suddenly, he came at me with a tackle. I fell to the ground with a heavy as the air was driven out of my lungs. The bottle came out of my hand as I did so, falling to the ground and shattering. I rolled over, putting my twin on the bottom. As I began to punch my twin, I heard a scream of pain. Glancing over in distraction, I saw that Vanky had stabbed his twin in the stomach. The wounded twin was lying on the ground, grimacing. Vanky kicked him in the face. That moment of distraction proved enough for my twin to throw me off. Before I could react, he drove his fist through my stomach. I doubled over, falling to the ground. My twin jumped on me and wrapped his hands around my neck.
I'm sorry, man. I gotta do this. We have a family to get back to, you know.
I flailed around, trying to throw his grip. My twin seemed to know what he was doing, though, and he only tightened the pressure. I tried to gasp for air, but got nothing.
I was starting to see spots in my vision, and everything began to turn blurry.
Then the pressure vanished. I gasped for air and saw Vanky throwing my twin off. They rolled through, over into the other room. I saw Vanky gain the upper hand as he smashed my twin's head against the corner of the table several times and then finishing off with a stomp on his head. The battered body of my twin slumped as if blood began to pool. Vanky was breathing raggedly and he unsteadily stood up. As I got up, I tried to move over to him. I was too late to warn him when his twin came up.
Vanky, watch out!
His eyes widened in alarm as he began to turn around. Vanky's twin grabbed Vanky and slit his throat with a smashed bottle. Gurgling, Vanky hit the ground as his blood began gushing out of the severed arteries. I screamed and ran forward, tackling Vanky's twin. I grabbed the shard of broken glass and ripped it sideways across the twin's throat. When I left the room, the guards took me back to the facility. I went back to my cell, alone. I curled up into a ball in my bed. Tears began to stream down my face. Everyone was gone. I was all alone. 10 more days. I only needed to survive for 10 more days. Right?
Congratulations for your service. You've officially served for a month and are free to go. Just one thing, though.
What the hell do you assholes want? Haven't I done enough for you?
Relax, we just need to do one more physical in order to examine the lasting effects of the objects that you've been exposed to. Here, take this pill. It's for the PET scan.
A doctor handed me a small blue pill. I popped it in my mouth and swigged it down with a gulp of water. As I jumped up onto the examination table, I began to think of my family. It had been so long since I had seen them. Emily would be 5 now, and Tim would just be entering 3rd grade. God, I miss them so much. I was going to see them soon. I was going to see. Sign the form on lines 3, 5, 18, and 23. This last statement is finalizing the agreement that in return for a month of service and scientific testing for the Foundation, you will be released from your death row sentencing. Remember that the work you're doing here will benefit the world. The dry, bored-looking, yet somehow familiar legal assistant stated as he droned off a piece of paper. I signed the form. What did I have to lose? As I stood up, I grabbed the legal assistant's hand and shook it. It seemed like the right thing to do. I just want to thank you for the opportunity that you're giving me. He only looked away in response. No problem, sir. I hope that this is a mutually profitable relationship. As the guards led me to a waiting van, I began to quietly think to myself. It was only a month. 30 days wasn't much. I could see my family soon. Right?